The twin suns of Zithra sank low into the sky, painting the clouds in shades of gold and violet. The air shimmered with a faint energy, the kind that made even the simplest rock pulse with life. In the sprawling city of Linthar, aliens bustled through streets that twisted like the roots of a giant tree. Each building hummed with soft light, reflecting off glass-like surfaces that seemed alive. Among the crowd, a small figure moved with careful curiosity. She was an alien girl named Leora, no taller than a human child, with luminous green skin and eyes that sparkled like liquid emeralds. Every movement she made carried a subtle grace, as if she were floating slightly above the ground. Leora had always been curious about humans. They were rare visitors to Zithra, and even the most learned elders knew little about them. They were unpredictable, their thoughts strange and vibrant, their emotions layered in ways Leora's people rarely encountered. Humans communicated mostly with words, gestures, and body language, while aliens like Leora sensed emotion directly. Thoughts, in the human sense, were nearly impossible for her kind to grasp. Yet there was something about humans that fascinated her deeply. Something powerful. Something alive. Today, Leora moved quietly through the bustling market district, where vendors sold glimmering fruits that floated in midair, textiles that shifted colors according to the holder's mood, and crystals that sang faint melodies when touched. She navigated the throng, her large eyes scanning for the human she had heard whispers about. A young scientist named Ethan, recently arrived from a faraway world. He had come to study Zithra's energy crystals, and already the rumors of his curiosity and brilliance were spreading among the aliens. Leora's heart beat a little faster as she spotted him. Ethan was standing near a stall displaying shards of the smallest crystals, bending low as he examined them carefully. His hair fell in loose, dark waves, his skin pale in contrast to the alien glow of the market. Even from a distance, she could sense the unusual energy surrounding him, thoughts that flickered like stars in a vast night sky. Most humans' minds felt scattered to her, but his was dense, layered, intricate. It felt as though a whole world existed behind his eyes. For a moment, Leora hesitated. The elders had always warned her against probing human minds. It was considered intrusive, even dangerous. But curiosity tugged at her like a living thread she could not resist. She wanted to know what Ethan was thinking, to understand the richness of a human mind firsthand. She stepped closer, blending with the crowd, her heart pounding in her chest. Ethan bent to inspect a crystal that glowed faintly with an internal light. He reached out, his fingers brushing against it, and a soft hum resonated in response. Leora froze. That hum. It wasn't the crystal. It was him. Humans had energy, too, of a different kind than aliens, and she could feel it pulsing like a tiny heartbeat in the air around him. She moved closer still, her small frame weaving between floating market stalls. Finally, she stopped just a few feet away. His head was tilted slightly, his dark eyes focused, brows furrowed in concentration. She took a deep breath and summoned the focus she had practiced in secret. Concentrating on a human mind was difficult, requiring a delicate balance of attention and restraint. Many of her kind had tried and failed, overwhelmed by the intensity or complexity of human thought. Her eyes softened, her senses stretching outward. At first, she felt only ordinary thoughts, curiosity, wonder, a mild fascination with the glowing crystal. Then a flicker of amusement, a thought about a memory that made him smile faintly. Leora's lips parted slightly, astonished at the vividness of it all. Human thoughts were not simple or clear. They were textured, layered like a tapestry woven of countless threads. And beneath that tapestry, she sensed something far greater, something almost impossible to comprehend. Suddenly, a surge of emotion hit her. It was not fear, not anger, not sadness. It was something else entirely. Determination. A quiet, steady, unyielding force that radiated outward from him. She gasped softly. She had never felt anything like this before. It was as if his mind contained entire civilizations, entire histories, entire lifetimes all at once. She stumbled back slightly, almost losing her balance, and for a moment she wondered if she should stop. But curiosity burned brighter than caution. She focused again, diving deeper into his mind. Images flashed before her eyes. Not images in the way a human saw pictures, but visions of people, cities, stars, ships moving through the void. She saw humans working together, arguing, laughing, building, inventing. She saw triumphs and failures, moments of sorrow and joy, ideas that could shape worlds. And through it all, she felt Ethan himself, at the center, calm and thoughtful, absorbing, understanding, shaping. Leora's breath caught. Her mind was being flooded, overwhelmed by the depth and breadth of what she was sensing. She hadn't expected to see all this, hadn't expected the sheer intensity. Her body trembled as she struggled to maintain control. A scream escaped her throat, sharp and involuntary, startling nearby humans and aliens alike. Some turned to look at her, but Leora barely noticed. She was still inside his mind, a prisoner to the overwhelming complexity she had dared to explore. Ethan froze, his dark eyes widening. "Are you okay?" he asked, stepping closer. His voice was calm, concerned, but Leora could sense a ripple of curiosity in his thoughts. He wasn't angry or frightened in the way she expected. Instead, he was intrigued, trying to understand what had just happened. Leora pulled back slightly, shaking her head, struggling to form words. I didn't mean to," she began, her voice trembling. "I didn't know. Your mind, it's—" Ethan frowned. "It's what?" She shook her head again, trying to compose herself. "It's more than I imagined. Humans, your thoughts, they're so alive." She looked at him with wide, luminous eyes. "I've never sensed anything like this before." Ethan's lips curved into a small smile. "Alive, huh? I guess that's one way to put it. We're complicated, maybe too complicated sometimes." Leora's gaze softened. "Complicated doesn't begin to describe it. I see worlds inside your mind. I see hope, struggle, dreams, and you." Her words faltered as she tried to grasp what she was feeling. She had expected fear or confusion, but instead, she felt awe, reverence. Ethan tilted his head. "You're brave, or maybe a little reckless. Mind reading isn't exactly polite, you know." "I didn't mean to intrude," she said quickly. I couldn't stop myself. I had to know." Ethan studied her carefully, his eyes gentle but sharp. "Humans are strange," he said softly. "We keep so much inside, but sometimes it's worth letting someone see. I don't usually let anyone see me like that. You're lucky, I guess." Leora's heart fluttered. Lucky? She hadn't expected him to feel that way. Most humans she had heard about would have recoiled, shouted, or even attacked. But Ethan, he was different. He seemed to understand, even in part, what she had done. The market continued around them, the hum of the crystals, the chatter of aliens, the flashes of floating lights. But for a moment, Leora felt a strange quiet inside herself. She had crossed a line, attempted something forbidden, yet she had not been punished. Instead, she had found a connection, a bridge between alien and human thought that few of her kind had ever experienced. She realized then that curiosity could be dangerous, yes, but it could also be beautiful. It could open doors, create bonds, and reveal truths that words alone could never express. She looked at Ethan again, and for the first time she felt not just fascination, but a kind of trust forming between them. Ethan bent to pick up another crystal, his fingers brushing it lightly. "So, what brings an alien girl like you to a human mind today?" he asked, a playful edge to his tone. I don't know," she admitted. "I have always wanted to understand humans. Your thoughts, they are so vivid, powerful. And yours are unlike any I have felt before." He smiled faintly, placing the crystal back on the stall. "I think humans are like that. We're messy, chaotic, unpredictable. But maybe that's what makes us interesting." Leora nodded slowly. "Interesting? Yes. That is one word for it. But more than that, I think humans have something special. Something worth seeing, worth knowing." Ethan's gaze softened. "Then maybe we're not so different, you and I. We're both explorers in our own ways. You explore minds, I explore worlds. Maybe together we can learn even more." For the first time, Leora felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps she had found not just curiosity, but companionship. Perhaps the human mind, with all its complexity, was not just a puzzle to solve, but a path to understanding, friendship, and even something greater. As the suns dipped below the horizon, casting the city in a violet glow, Leora and Ethan walked side by side, their steps light, their minds open. Leora could still sense the faint echoes of his thoughts, brilliant and alive, like distant stars calling across the universe. And she knew that this was only the beginning. The journey into the human mind, and into the heart of what it meant to be human, had just begun. The night over, Zithara was alive with quiet energy. The city of Linthar glimmered under the twin moons, and the air was filled with the faint hum of crystals and machinery. Leora walked beside Ethan, her small hands brushing against the soft air currents, feeling the echoes of his thoughts lingering in the space between them. Even after the earlier encounter, she could not stop thinking about what she had seen in his mind. The images and visions had not faded. They lingered like sparks in her consciousness, reminding her of the vastness and depth of the human mind. Ethan seemed unaware of the magnitude of her reaction. He moved with ease through the winding streets, occasionally pausing to admire a glowing crystal or a peculiar architectural design. Leora followed silently, marveling at the way humans moved, how their gestures and expressions carried subtle meanings that she had only just begun to understand. She had been told that humans were simple, fragile beings, but Ethan's presence contradicted everything she had been taught. His mind was strong, clear, and alive. "Are you always this quiet?" Ethan asked after a while, glancing at her from the corner of his eye. His tone was gentle, not accusatory, but there was curiosity in it. Leora shook her head, her luminous eyes flickering. "I am learning. Humans are not like my people. Your thoughts are complex. It takes time to understand, even a little." Ethan chuckled softly. "I guess that's fair. Most humans don't even understand themselves half the time. Don't worry, I won't bite." She smiled faintly, feeling a warmth in his words. "I do not fear you," she said. "I only wish to understand." They continued walking through the city, eventually reaching a quiet plaza where the light of the moons reflected off a still pool of water. The water shimmered with faint colors, rippling gently as though responding to the thoughts of those nearby. Leora paused, staring at the reflection of the moons. The images of Ethan's mind flashed again in her memory, the visions of entire civilizations, the triumphs and failures, the hope and determination. She shivered slightly, realizing how deeply she had already connected with him and how dangerous that connection could be. "Why do you want to understand humans so much?" Ethan asked suddenly, breaking the silence. He had been watching her closely, and now his eyes held a thoughtful intensity. Leora hesitated. Because humans are special. Your minds are alive, full of light and darkness and dreams. It is beautiful. I want to know what it feels like, what it means to be like you. Ethan considered her words carefully. I think most humans would find that strange and maybe a little flattering, but not many would let you inside their minds, even if they could. You're lucky. She nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and apprehension. I know. I should not have tried. It is forbidden for my kind. Mind-reading humans. It is considered dangerous. But I could not stop myself. Your mind, it called to me. Ethan frowned slightly, sensing the seriousness in her tone. Dangerous? How? Leora looked down at her hands, trying to find words. Because human thoughts are not simple. They are vast. They are too powerful for many of my kind. Some who have tried have been overwhelmed. Their minds could not bear it. And some have lost themselves in the attempt. Ethan's eyes widened. Lost themselves? Yes, she whispered. Their consciousness shattered. They could no longer return to their own minds fully. It is why we are warned, why most of my people would never dare. But you, your mind, it is strong. I do not think I would be harmed by you, only overwhelmed by the beauty of your thoughts. Ethan studied her carefully, his brow furrowed. That's intense. I didn't know humans could be like that. I thought we were complicated, but maybe not like that. You are, Leora said softly. Far more than I imagined. And you are different from others. You are brave, and you are careful. You choose your thoughts, your actions. You do not let your mind be scattered. Ethan smiled faintly. I try. I've learned that the mind is like a garden. If you do not tend it, weeds grow and chaos takes over. But I guess some weeds are worth keeping. Leora tilted her head, curious. Weeds? Memories? Mistakes? Regrets? Some are unpleasant, but they make us who we are. They remind us of what we've learned, what we hope for, what we can become. Leora nodded slowly, absorbing the idea. Humans were strange and fragile, but in that fragility, there was strength. In their chaos, there was order. And in their imperfections, there was beauty. She felt a strange kinship with this human who walked beside her, whose mind was both a puzzle and a beacon. For a while, they walked in silence, watching the reflection of the moons ripple across the water. Leora's thoughts wandered, questioning what it meant to connect with a human on such an intimate level. Could she reveal more of his mind? Should she? The rules of her people were clear, but her curiosity was stronger than obedience. Suddenly, a faint vibration ran through the plaza. Leora tensed, her senses alert. The energy around them was shifting, subtle but undeniable. She could sense movement, not of bodies, but of intention, of thought. Someone was approaching, or perhaps something. She turned slightly, scanning the plaza with her sharp eyes. A group of Zitharan officials emerged from the shadows, their tall forms illuminated by the moonlight. Their expressions were stern, their eyes cold and calculating. Leora's heart sank. The council had found her. She knew they had been watching, monitoring for any sign of disobedience. And now, she feared, they had discovered what she had done. Leora! One of the officials called, his voice firm and commanding. You are required to report to the council immediately. There has been a disturbance. Leora's hands trembled slightly. She glanced at Ethan, unsure how to explain what was happening. I must go, she said quietly. It is my duty. Ethan frowned. Disturbance? What kind of disturbance? She shook her head. I cannot explain. It is complicated. The officials advanced, their movements precise and unyielding. Leora knew she had no choice but to comply, at least for now. But she could not leave Ethan. Not yet. He had become more than a curiosity. He was a part of her understanding of humans, a key to a new perspective she had never imagined. I will return, she said softly, more to herself than to him. I must. There is more to see, more to learn. Ethan nodded, sensing her determination. I'll be here, he said simply. We'll figure this out together. The officials took her away, their forms moving swiftly through the city streets, leaving Ethan standing alone in the moonlight. He watched her go, feeling a mixture of concern and curiosity. There was something extraordinary about this small alien girl, something that transcended their differences. He did not fully understand her abilities, but he trusted her. And he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. In the council chambers, Leora stood before the elders, her luminous eyes lowered in respect. The room was vast, filled with floating lights that pulsed softly, reflecting off the smooth walls. The council members regarded her with stern expressions, their voices echoing in the chamber. Leora, one of the elders said, his tone sharp. You have violated the rules of our kind. You have attempted to read the mind of a human. Do you understand the gravity of your actions? She nodded slowly. I understand, respected elders, but I did not act out of malice. I only sought understanding. His mind, it is extraordinary. I wish to see it, to learn. The elders exchanged glances, their expressions a mixture of concern and intrigue. Humans are not to be probed, another elder said. Their thoughts are dangerous. They are unpredictable. By delving into his mind, you have risked not only yourself, but the delicate balance between our species and theirs. Leora bowed her head. I am aware. I accept any consequences, but I also believe that what I have seen is important. Humans, they are more than we know, and he is special. The council murmured among themselves, the tension in the room palpable. Finally, the first elder spoke again, his tone measured. You speak with conviction, Leora, but conviction alone does not excuse disobedience. You must demonstrate that your actions serve the greater good of our people. Leora straightened, her resolve firm. I will show that understanding humans, connecting with them, can strengthen both our worlds. I will not fail. The council regarded her silently for a moment, then nodded. Very well. You may continue your studies, but you will be watched closely. Any further breach of the rules will result in severe consequences. Leora inclined her head, relief washing over her. She had been given a chance, a small opportunity to continue her exploration of the human mind, and she knew that Ethan's presence, his trust, and his extraordinary mind would guide her on this journey. As she left the council chambers, her thoughts returned to him. She had glimpsed the vastness of his mind once. And now she longed to understand more, not to control, not to invade, but to connect, to learn, to bridge the gap between human and alien. She made her way back to the plaza, where the twin moons still reflected on the rippling water. And there he was, waiting, as if he had known she would return. Their eyes met, and in that moment, no words were needed. The bond had been formed, fragile but strong, a bridge between two worlds, two minds, and two hearts. The journey ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, dangers, and difficult choices. But Leora knew one thing for certain. The human mind was a universe of its own, and she had only just begun to explore its infinite wonders. The following days were tense, though the city of Linthar continued its rhythm as if nothing had happened. Leora moved through the streets with caution, Every step weighed with the knowledge that the council was watching. She could feel their eyes in the subtle vibrations of the city, the way the floating lights pulsed slightly brighter when she passed. Even her own people regarded her with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. Some whispered behind her back, questioning her judgment. Others simply avoided her, afraid of being associated with someone who had dared to defy the rules. Ethan, meanwhile, remained a constant presence in her thoughts, and more importantly, in her plans. He had spent the days quietly studying the energy crystals, mapping their properties, and observing their unusual behaviors. Leora would occasionally join him under the pretense of curiosity about his work, but in truth, she was carefully gauging his mind. She wanted to understand him further, not in the invasive sense, but in the way one studies a rare, luminous flower, gently, with respect and awe. One evening, as the twin moons rose high above the city, their light casting silver streaks across the plaza, Leora found Ethan examining a particularly unusual crystal. It was larger than the others, and its surface shimmered with patterns that seemed almost alive, flowing and changing as though it had its own consciousness. "Do you ever wonder what's inside these crystals?" Ethan asked softly, his fingers hovering just above the surface. "It's like they contain something waiting to be discovered. Knowledge, maybe even a story. Sometimes I think they might hold pieces of the universe itself." Leora studied him, captivated not only by his words, but by the intensity in his mind. She could sense his thoughts reaching outward, intertwining with the crystal's energy, as if he were trying to converse with it. "You see more than others," she said quietly. "Your mind, it does not simply observe. It understands. It reaches. It creates connection." Ethan glanced at her, a small smile forming. "That's one way to put it. Maybe humans are like crystals in some ways. We contain stories, energy, potential. If only someone knows how to read them." She nodded, feeling a strange warmth spread through her. She wanted to tell him everything, to show him what she had seen in his mind. But the council's warnings echoed in her memory. It was dangerous to reveal too much, yet withholding the truth felt equally difficult. There was a growing tension within her, a push and pull between curiosity and caution, between trust and fear. The moment was broken when a subtle vibration passed through the air. Leora stiffened instantly, her senses sharpened, detecting the approach of others not through sight, but through intention. They were not casual travelers or merchants. These were agents of the council, moving with purpose and authority. "We need to leave," she whispered, grabbing Ethan's arm lightly. He frowned. "Leave? Where? What's happening?" "They are coming for me," she said softly. "The council, they know I have been near your mind. They will demand answers, and they will expect obedience." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "So we run?" "Not run," she replied. "We move carefully. If they confront us here, it could be dangerous, for both of us." Together they slipped through the twisting streets of Linthar, moving quickly but quietly, avoiding the main thoroughfares. Leora's alien senses guided them, feeling the subtle changes in the air and energy, predicting where the council agents would appear next. Ethan followed her lead, trusting her instincts even though he did not fully understand the situation. Eventually, they reached a secluded area near the edge of the city. The ground here was rocky, dotted with faintly glowing vegetation that responded to the faint pulses of their energy. Leora paused, her eyes scanning the horizon. "We are safe. For now," she said, though tension lingered in her voice. Ethan studied her, concern etched on his face. "Safe? But for how long? What exactly are they after?" "They are afraid," Leora said, her voice quiet but firm. "They fear what humans can do, what your mind can reveal. They think that knowledge must be controlled, that understanding must be limited. But they do not see the potential, the possibility of cooperation, of learning, of growth. Ethan nodded slowly. So they want to stop us before we show them something they can't control. Typical of any authority, I guess. Leora smiled faintly, appreciating the parallel he drew. Yes, but we cannot stop. We must find a way to show them what humans can offer, and what can be gained if we bridge our worlds. The air between them grew still, charged with unspoken agreement. They both knew that the coming days would test not only their courage, but their trust in each other. Leora's mind flitted briefly to what she had glimpsed in Ethan's thoughts, the vision of countless human civilizations, their achievements, their dreams, and their potential. She shivered slightly, realizing that she was no longer merely an observer. She had become a participant in something much larger than herself. The next morning, they returned to the city under the guise of normal activity. Leora kept her expression calm, but inside, she felt the pulse of anticipation. The council would watch her closely now, and any misstep could be dangerous. She had to be careful, yet she could not abandon the pursuit of knowledge. As they walked through the market, Ethan noticed her tension. "You're on edge," he said. "What's going on? Is it the council?" Leora nodded subtly. "Yes, they watch me. They expect obedience, and they are cautious, suspicious. Any hint of disobedience could bring serious consequences." Ethan frowned. "Sounds like we need a plan." "We do," she agreed, "but it must be careful. We cannot confront them openly yet. We must gather knowledge, understand limits, and find allies if possible." Ethan's eyes sparkled with determination. "Then we do it, together, whatever it takes." Leora felt a surge of relief and pride. There was something remarkable about humans, their resilience, their courage, their ability to act even in uncertainty, and Ethan embodied that spirit fully. She had glimpsed it in his mind, and now she witnessed it in his actions. Over the following days, they worked in secret. Leora would guide Ethan through the hidden areas of the city, places where the council's influence was weaker. They studied energy crystals, mapping their properties and experimenting with subtle manipulations. Each experiment revealed something new, both about the crystals and about themselves. Leora discovered that she could sense the energy of the crystals in a way that complemented Ethan's scientific approach. Where he saw patterns and potential, she felt currents and resonance. Together, they created small, controlled reactions, pulses of light, brief bursts of energy that danced across the stone floors of abandoned corridors. It was during one of these experiments that Leora felt a sudden surge of thought, a warning. The council was aware of their movements. Agents were approaching, moving quickly but silently. She grabbed Ethan's arm, her senses alert. "We have to move," she whispered urgently. They slipped through a narrow tunnel that led to the outskirts of the city, avoiding patrols and observation points. The alien girl's heart pounded as she guided them over jagged terrain, her senses extending ahead to detect danger. Ethan followed without question, trusting her instincts completely. Finally, they reached a hidden cliff overlooking the valley below. The landscape stretched endlessly, dotted with glowing vegetation and shimmering crystals. They paused to catch their breath, the tension slowly ebbing away. "Every time we do this," Ethan said, "I feel like we're walking on the edge of something incredible and dangerous." Leora nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon. "Yes, but it is worth it. The knowledge we gain, the understanding, it is worth any risk, and we are careful. That is what matters." They spent hours studying the energy crystals in this secluded place, experimenting with combinations and interactions that neither had seen before. Leora discovered that by focusing her senses on Ethan's thoughts while observing the crystals, she could detect subtle resonances that revealed hidden properties. Ethan, in turn, recorded her observations and cross-referenced them with his scientific data. Their collaboration grew stronger with each passing day. Leora began to sense not just the energy of the crystals, but the patterns in Ethan's thoughts, the way he approached problems, the way he visualized solutions. And in turn, Ethan began to understand her unique abilities, realizing that her perception added depth to his research that he could never achieve alone. But the Council's shadow loomed constantly. Leora could feel it in the shifting currents of the city, in the whispers of her people, and in the subtle pressures she sensed when moving through populated areas. They were patient, calculating, waiting for a mistake, and she knew that one misstep could cost not only her freedom, but also the trust she had built with Ethan. One evening, as they rested near the cliff's edge, Leora finally spoke of what she had been feeling. "Ethan, I sense their intentions growing stronger. They are planning, preparing. If we are discovered, we may be forced to act quickly. We must be ready." Ethan nodded, determination hardening his features. "Then we train, we prepare, and we stay alert. No matter what comes, we face it together. I trust you, Leora. I know you can sense danger before it comes. We'll use that." Leora felt a swell of pride and reassurance. She had never imagined that a human could inspire such trust, such connection. And yet, here he was, standing beside her, ready to face any challenge. The days that followed were a delicate balance of study and vigilance. They experimented with the crystals, explored hidden areas, and observed the subtle movements of the Council. Each step forward brought new knowledge, but also new risk. And yet, the bond between Leora and Ethan deepened, built not just on curiosity and trust, but on a shared vision of what could be possible if humans and aliens truly understood each other. One morning, as the twin suns rose in a blaze of color, Leora and Ethan watched the light reflect off the valley below. Leora's mind flickered briefly to the visions she had glimpsed before, the endless potential of humans, their resilience, their creativity. She realized that the future was not just about knowledge or power, but about connection, understanding, and courage. And she knew that with Ethan by her side, they could face whatever the Council or the universe might throw at them. The morning air on Zythera was crisp, carrying the faint hum of energy that flowed through the city. Leora and Ethan stood at the edge of the cliffs overlooking the valley, their eyes fixed on the horizon where the twin suns were beginning to rise. Today, they knew, could change everything. The Council had grown aware of the depth of Leora's curiosity and Ethan's involvement. They would demand answers, and there was no turning back. Leora's mind was alert, sensing subtle shifts in the currents of energy that surrounded them. Every pulse, every ripple could be a warning, a sign of approaching danger. Ethan, noticing the tension in her stance, reached out and placed a hand on her arm. "Whatever happens," he said quietly, "we face it together, you and I." She nodded, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. There was courage in humans, yes, but there was something deeper in this moment, a bond that transcended species. "Together," she agreed. They descended from the cliff carefully, avoiding the main city paths. Leora guided them through hidden corridors, past glowing vegetation and quiet alcoves that hummed faintly with energy. Every step felt heavy with anticipation, as if the city itself held its breath. Finally, they arrived at the Council chambers. The building was imposing, its walls smooth and reflective, glowing faintly with an inner light. Leora's heart pounded, but she steadied herself. Today she would speak, not as a student, not as a rule breaker, but as a bridge between two worlds. The Council was waiting. Their forms were tall and imposing, their eyes sharp and unyielding. Leora stepped forward, keeping her posture respectful but firm. Ethan followed, his expression calm but resolute. "You stand before us again, Leora," one of the elders said, his voice carrying both authority and expectation. "You have defied our rules. You have attempted to read a human mind, an act considered dangerous and unacceptable. Explain yourself." Leora inhaled deeply. "Respected elders, I understand the gravity of my actions, but I have seen something extraordinary. The human mind is vast, layered, and full of potential. And this human, Ethan, is special. His thoughts are not just words or emotions. They are visions of what can be, dreams of unity, hope, and courage. I seek to understand, not to control. I seek to connect." The council murmured among themselves, some frowning, some visibly intrigued. Another elder spoke, his tone skeptical. "And what do you propose, Leora? That your curiosity justifies your disobedience?" "No," Leora said firmly. "Not curiosity alone. Understanding humans, connecting with them, can strengthen both our worlds. We are not enemies. Knowledge, empathy, and cooperation are far more powerful than fear. Ethan and I have learned from each other. We have explored, discovered, and shared insights that neither species could achieve alone." Ethan stepped forward, his voice calm and steady. "Respected elders, I know humans are considered unpredictable and dangerous by your standards, but we are also capable of hope, of understanding, and of growth. Leora has shown me the depth of your civilization, and I have shown her the potential within humans. Together, we can build something greater than fear, greater than isolation." The council remained silent, their glowing eyes scanning them both. Leora could feel the weight of centuries of tradition pressing down on them. Yet she sensed a crack forming, a hesitation, a seed of curiosity. One of the elders leaned forward. "And what of the dangers? If humans can be understood fully, what stops them from using that knowledge for harm?" Ethan's gaze met Leora's briefly, a silent exchange of trust and resolve. "Understanding does not equal control. Knowledge without empathy is dangerous, yes. But knowledge with empathy is the strongest force there is. We do not seek to dominate or destroy. We seek to learn, to grow, to cooperate." The room was silent for a long moment. Then the first elder spoke again, his voice softer this time. "You speak boldly, both of you. But words alone do not prove your intentions." Leora took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. She focused on the council, extending her senses carefully, gently sharing the essence of what she had seen in Ethan's mind, not in detail, not in secrets, but the feeling of his thoughts, hope, courage, empathy, determination, and the desire to connect and protect. The room pulsed with energy as the council members experienced it, a sensation unlike any they had felt before. They gasped softly, their expressions shifting. Some looked shocked, some thoughtful, some even moved. Leora realized that she had shown them not the raw content of a human mind, but the heart of it, the potential for good, for unity, for understanding. One elder finally spoke, his tone measured but not harsh. "It is different than I expected. Perhaps humans are not as limited or as dangerous as we have assumed, and perhaps we have underestimated the value of connection." Another elder nodded slowly. "If what you say is true, Leora, then you have done more than break the rules. You have opened a door that cannot be closed." Leora felt a surge of relief and determination. "Yes, and I am willing to continue under guidance, to show that understanding and cooperation between humans and aliens is not only possible but beneficial." Ethan stepped closer to her, offering silent support. Together they stood as a living example of what they proposed. Two beings from different worlds, working together, learning together, and showing the strength that comes from trust and curiosity. The council deliberated for hours, consulting among themselves. Leora and Ethan waited patiently, their bond growing stronger with every passing moment. Finally, the first elder spoke again, his voice carrying a weight of finality and hope. Leora, Ethan, you have demonstrated that the potential for understanding between our species is real. You have shown courage, wisdom, and empathy. Therefore, we will allow your studies to continue, but under our observation. You will share your discoveries with us, and in turn, we will share what we know. Together, perhaps, we can achieve what neither species could alone. Leora's heart soared. She bowed deeply, feeling a mixture of relief, pride, and anticipation. Thank you, respected elders. I will not fail. Ethan nodded, his expression calm but filled with quiet triumph. Neither will I. In the days that followed, Leora and Ethan worked openly with the council, sharing their findings and discoveries. They explored the properties of the energy crystals, experimented with new methods of harnessing their power, and began teaching others about the potential of combining human ingenuity with alien perception. The city of Linthar began to change subtly. Aliens who had once been skeptical of humans started to see their value, their creativity, and their unique perspective. Humans visiting the city felt welcome and understood in ways they had never experienced before. Bridges, both literal and figurative, were built between communities, and a sense of possibility spread like sunlight through the streets. Leora and Ethan continued their collaboration, exploring not just the crystals but the wider mysteries of Zithera. Together, they discovered patterns of energy that hinted at deeper connections between the planet, its inhabitants, and the universe beyond. Their bond grew, a fusion of minds and hearts that transcended species and tradition. One evening, as the twin moons reflected off the valley below, Leora and Ethan stood at the cliff's edge once more. The city sparkled beneath them, alive with energy and potential. You know, Ethan said quietly, I never imagined that visiting Zithera would lead to all this, but I'm glad it did. Leora smiled, her eyes reflecting the moons. So am I. I have seen things I never thought possible. Not just in the crystals, not just in your mind, but in what can happen when we trust and understand each other. They stood together in silence, feeling the pulse of the planet and the energy of their connection. The journey had been difficult, filled with risk and uncertainty, but it had also been filled with wonder, discovery, and courage. Leora realized that the true lesson was not just about humans or aliens, not just about minds or crystals, but about connection. Understanding another being, another mind, was the greatest adventure of all. And when that understanding was paired with empathy, trust, and courage, it could change worlds. The twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting the city in shades of gold and violet. Leora and Ethan watched the light fade, knowing that the future was bright, not because it was easy, but because they had chosen to face it together. In that moment, Leora understood that the human mind she had glimpsed was not just a puzzle or a curiosity. It was a force for growth, for connection, and for hope. And together, she and Ethan would ensure that this force reached beyond themselves, shaping a future where humans and aliens could stand side by side, united by understanding, trust, and the courage to see the world through each other's eyes. The adventure was far from over, but the path forward was clear. Curiosity, courage, and empathy had opened a door, and through that door a new era began, one where two worlds, once separated by fear and misunderstanding, could walk together toward the stars. And as Leora gazed at Ethan, she knew one simple truth. Sometimes, the most extraordinary discoveries are not found in crystals or technology, or even the vastness of space. They are found in the minds and hearts of those brave enough to see and understand each other. The journey had begun, and the possibilities were infinite.